And what I'm trying to do right now, I'm trying to have this menu, all these menu items, I want them to go all the way to the right. And through inspecting, I found out that, those menu items are inside of this UL. And looking at the structure, I see that this UL has a container that also has the whole width. I figure if I can make the UL be the same width as its parent, I could then start leveraging, let's say, a flex box and tell them flex start to be the end. And that way, they're all the way to the end. All right. So to do that, again, I added a custom class to my UL, which is menu items container. And I'm about to tell this menu items container for its width to be 100% of its parent. So I'll just come down here and say width 100%. And if I do this and I save that, nothing seems to have changed much. But if I hover over the UL, we can see that now UL, before it was 300 some, pixels of width, but right now it's 1,000 something, which is dope. Because if I could do this, then by looking at my UL, I'm looking around, I see width is 100%, which is okay. But and then I look around, I see that the navbar nav class that he already has a display flex on it. Everybody see that? So this is coming from Bootstrap. So this is me studying what I got from Bootstrap so that when I want to customize it, I have context on what I got from them. So I'm looking at that navbar dash nav that came from Bootstrap, and I see, oh, they're already set up a display flex. Easy day. So now I don't need to say display flex on my UL because I know my UL has a bunch of LIs. I could just come down here and play with it. Say, okay, if it's display flex, I could say flex dash start or flex, what is it? Flex direction. No, not direction. What is it? Flex. I don't remember the property, but I could come down here and cheat, which is clicking right here. It is justify content and then flex end or something. So I'll come down here and say justify content, flex end. Look at that. And by me moving them on that x-axis, I can put them all the way to the end. And there you have it. So now all I need to do is I just gotta come to my container guy and just give it that style right here. The CSS declaration, put it right there, paste it in there, and Bob's your uncle. Now, this is my own custom little thing. I'm leveraging Bootstrap's navbar, but I still gotta know how to style my own elements so that I can customize it. So Jay, does that answer your question as far as, yeah, we still need our style sheets, but more so for custom styles, and you can build on top of what Bootstrap gives you to get there faster if what you want to do is already done for you. All right. And let's say at some point, right? Let's say at some point the cool thing is the fact that our styles are linked after Bootstrap styles. They make that makes sure that whatever styles we write, even if they're colliding with Bootstrap, ours overwrite Bootstraps. All right. And just like nav bars, there's a bunch of Bootstrap components that you will run into, some of them basically being right here. So what I'm going to ask you to do, I'm going to ask you to go and for the next, let's say 10 to 15 minutes, I want you to play with as many components as you can, right? For instance, there's a carousel. You ever wanted carousels on your page? Well, guess what? You can have a component like this. As long as you put in some freaking SRCs, you're good to go. You got the carousel. I'm talking about pop-ups. I'm talking about modals that pop up on the screen like so. You can close them and so forth like that. I'm talking about tooltips, spinners, you name it. Most of it is here. So it's a matter of, oh snap, I have access to that. Okay, I can use that. You want some progress bars? There you go. And then you're gonna realize that some of these elements, when we start talking about JavaScript, you can go and even make them dance and jazz up. So what I want you to do for the next 10, 15 minutes, I want you to spend time with all these components or some of these components and see what you like. Once you feel like you get the vibe of Bootstrap, I want to tell you that Bootstrap is not the only CSS library that there is. If you look in my notes, I also tell you that there is another one called Materialize. I want you to figure out how that works. Compare and contrast so that basically, you take about 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, get used to some components in Bootstrap, switch gears, go figure out how Materialize works, which is how do I link to it? How do I use some of the components? And then play around with some of those components. And then by the time you're done, we're going to be at lunch. Once you come back from lunch, I'm gonna ask you, what do you think? Do you like one over the other? But I've got some good news. You can use both of them at the same goddamn time. It's your styles. You can link whatever styles you want. They're gonna be conflicting, but if you want to use both, you can use both. You can use one over the other. You can use both. You can do whatever you want. So just wanted to give you some, CSS libraries, wrap your head around that. And then once we come out of the break, once we come out of our lunch break, what we're going to do, we're going to literally spend the rest of the day building a project that is versioned. So we're going to practice the whole branching. We're going to, practice the whole merging conflicts. But we're gonna be building a real project with different versions. And then as you're done with one version, you're gonna create another repository for a second branch, and for I mean, and create a second branch for a different version. And then you're gonna, basically we're gonna work as if you're working in teams, but it's a team of one. But I'm gonna throw a wrench in your whole process where I'm gonna tell all of you to contribute to each other's project, meaning you're going to have third-party code that you're going to have to merge into your code so that you can deal with conflicts, see how your project can grow with other people contributing to it, which is going to give you almost the same setup that you're going to have in your project when you're working with multiple people. How do you make sure that nobody can ever mess up your main branch? How do you use branches? How do you merge conflicts? How do you how do you deal with code breaking and so on and so forth? And also, how do we go about testing our code as we develop it? So that's where we're gonna be, after lunch. But for now, what you're gonna do, you're gonna take all this time that's left until our lunch break. You're gonna get used to some of those Bootstrap components. You're gonna go figure out what Materialize is all about, figure out what components you have access to, how you can use it, and then whenever you're done with that, go eat lunch, come back, and we're gonna start building this little light game. Any questions about what I want you to do until we go to lunch? There's no question. Start jumping on that. In the meantime, I'm about to drive, go get my tires all fixed up, and I'll come back after lunch. So I'll see you after lunch. I got you. But there you go. All right, go get it.